Om Bhadram Karne Vishranuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashye Makshabhirya Chatraha Sthairangais Tushtuvagum Sastanubhi Vyashema Devahitanyadayuhu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, O gods, may we hear with our ears what is auspicious. O ye adorable ones, may we see with our eyes what is auspicious. May we sing praises to ye and enjoy with strong limbs and body the life allotted to us by the gods. Om, peace, peace, peace. We are not at peace with others because we are not at peace with ourselves. And we are not at peace with ourselves because we are not at peace with God. We are not at peace with others because we are not at peace with ourselves. And we are not at peace with ourselves because we are not at peace with God. And often we use God, religion, prayer, spirituality as a way to avoid facing our own inner chaos. Thomas Merton. The spiritual journey is not about rising above our humanity, but diving deeply into it. The spiritual journey is not about rising above our humanity, but diving deeply into it, so that we may discover the divine within the human. Meister Eckhart. Let me tell you a story. In a quiet grove near the bank of the Ganges, there lived a revered ascetic named Vidyananda. He had studied the Upanishads, memorized the Gita, and could discourse for hours of the non-dual nature of Brahman. There is no doer, he would say. All is one. The world is mithya, a dependent reality, like a dream and a dreamer. Devotees came from far and wide to hear him speak. They called him Mahatma, Jnani, a liberated one, and indeed, Vidyananda believed he was free. One winter evening, a beggar, thin, shivering, and barefoot, approached his ashram. The man bowed and whispered, "Maharaj, I have not eaten in 2 days. My child lies feverish at home. Please, I need some help. Give me some medicine and food." Vidyananda, seated on his deer skin, eyes half closed in meditation, did not open them. Calmly, he said, "My son, why do you speak of hunger? The body is unreal. The self is ever full, untouched by heat or cold, want or plenty. You are not the body. Realize this, and your suffering ends." The beggar stared, stunned. He couldn't believe it. He tried once more. "But my child is burning with fever," he said. Vidyananda smiled faintly. "All beings are manifestation of the same Brahman. Your child, you, the food we eat, nothing is separate. Why cling to names and forms? Go in peace, meditate on I am Brahman. Heartbroken, the beggar left, drying his feet through the frost. That night in a dream, Vidyananda saw Lord Krishna not on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, but standing beside the feverish child, holding her hand. Krishna turned to him and said gently in the dream, you speak well of oneness, O wise one, but tell me, when you saw the beggar, did you see me? When you denied him food, did you deny it to me? You say the world is mithya, but mithya is not asat, non-existent. It is satya, dependent on me. To ignore the suffering in mithya is not wisdom. It is indifference dressed as knowledge. Vidyananda awoke trembling. Tears streamed down his face, not for himself, but for the child he had denied and failed. At dawn, he ran to where the child was with rice, medicine, and warm clothing, and started serving the child as an offering. Years later, a disciple asked him, Master, do you still teach that the world is mithya, impermanent? Vidyananda replied, yes, yes. But now I also know Brahman wears the face of the hungry. To know oneness is not to ignore the many, but to serve the many as the one. Good morning, everyone. Always a pleasure to be here in San Diego. What do you think about the story? It was a little extreme.
Very Vivekananda type, very Swami.
Yes, yes, indeed. And today we'll be talking about that a little bit. There is a misconception, a misinterpretation, a misunderstanding about what spirituality is. Okay? And I've seen this throughout the years. I've been among a spiritual community for many, many years, as you, I can imagine. And we sometimes want to customize spirituality according to our own needs, to our selfish motives. Today the topic is when spirituality becomes an escape. Spirituality in its authentic and clear form is a path towards self-knowledge. Self-knowledge, self-mastery, freedom from the bonds of nature. Clearly, we are slaves of nature. We are under its laws, and there is nothing we can do about it. So we need to understand these laws, understand our own true, real nature, and do something about it. True spirituality is the path of self-knowledge, self-mastery. But it all starts with responsibility. However, it can also be misunderstood and as a result be misused as a means for evasion of worldly duties, emotional pain, or existential discomfort. There is a trend going on when it comes to discussing about this evasion. People use the term spiritual bypassing. Have you ever heard of it? It's very popular among the Buddhists. Spiritual bypassing. If you understand these two words, it's easy to infer what it means. There are many dimensions of this spiritual bypassing. I just gave you one example in this story, but there are many, trust me. Spiritual bypassing is a term formulated by the psychologist and Buddhist teacher named John Wellwood in the early 1980s to describe the tendency to use spiritual ideas, practices, or beliefs to avoid or suppress unresolved emotional issues. To avoid or suppress unresolved emotional issues. We want to escape. We don't want to deal with our shortcomings or problems in our lives. And we find spirituality very convenient. Oh, I stay in my room alone. Or I go on a retreat. To avoid or suppress unresolved emotional issues, psychological wounds, or develop mental needs. To legitimate behaviors. To avoid dealing with psychological challenges, painful emotions, unhealed wounds. By observation, he noticed that there were a lot of people who either excused themselves for being spiritual to avoid dealing with either responsibilities or painful situations. There is the tendency to utilize the spiritual teachings to frame them in a way to customize the ideal according to our convenience. Spiritual bypassing describes the use of religious language, ritual, or mystical ideals to avoid psychological honesty, personal responsibility, moral accountability, and authentic engagement with reality. Using religion or spirituality to avoid self-honesty, suppress emotions, evade social responsibilities, or to construct a false image of holiness. If we pay attention, there are lots of spiritual personalities out there. Open your eyes. In spiritual circles, it is not uncommon to hear statements like, I am not the doer, so it doesn't matter what I do. I heard that. Everything is an illusion, everything is Maya. So why worry about what is right or wrong? I have transcended guilt, so I don't have to apologize. People believe it. Spiritual bypassing is a defense mechanism. There is this culture right now going on, a wellness culture. Oh, we have to stay positive. Oh my God, don't be so negative. And sometimes we just need to be heard. We just need to borrow a pair of ears, for somebody to listen to us. What do we get? Hey, what time is it? Oh, I'm getting a phone call. Excuse me. Sometimes we become so uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. Sometimes we become so uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. We are so uncomfortable with people's anger. We are so uncomfortable with people's sadness. Oh no, I don't have time. I don't have time for this now. And so we start trying to find ways to not sit there with excuses. To start trying to find ways to justify or move through it quicker than we should. Faith and spirituality could be a really good defense mechanism for that. Rather than confronting difficult feelings such as anger, grief, shame, or fear, A person may unconsciously or consciously rise above them by invoking spiritual principles like non-attachment. Everything is an illusion, or I'm not the body, I'm not the mind. While spirituality can be a profound path to healing and awakening, no doubt about that, spiritual bypassing distorts it into a defense mechanism, a way to escape discomfort rather than transform it. True spirituality is not an exit from life, but a profound entrance into it with clarity, maturity, and ethical integrity. Do you agree? To give you some examples, a person who was abused as a child may say, oh, it was just karma. I needed to learn detachment instead of acknowledging trauma and find a healthy and holistic way to deal with it. The Hindus call it karma. Or after the betrayal, someone declares, I have no resentment. I see the divine in everyone, while internally experiencing unexpressed pain, rancor, bitterness, and resentment. In relationships, using non-attachment to justify emotional unavailability or neglect. Now, what's the moral of the story? Spiritual knowledge without compassion is not real spirituality. What is it? Without compassion, without love, is clearly bypassing, a spiritual bypassing. We find in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6:29, he who sees the self in all beings and all beings in the self, seeing everything with equal vision, his mind is established in unity. Sarvabhutas tamatmanam sarvabhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshinaha. The highest spiritual practice is to see God in every being and act accordingly. So as he said in the beginning, that sounds like a Vivekananda kind of a story. Well, yeah, it's true. I picked it on purpose. Coming from a state of deep samadhi, Sri Ramakrishna said, how foolish to speak of compassion. Man is an insignificant worm crawling on the earth, and he is to show compassion to others. This is absurd. It must not be compassion, but service to all. Recognize them as God's manifestation and serve them. Recognize them as God's manifestation and serve them. Vivekananda used to say, the only God that is ever worshipped in this world is the God in the living human being. A hungry man does not want religion, he wants bread first. When a man is starving, it is no use preaching him about the soul. First, bread, then spiritual teachings. We are familiar with these quotes. Religion is not in talk, not in reading books, not in speculation, but in actual realization. Realization means to turn this into a reality, to practice it. And that realization expresses as service, strength, and fearlessness. The truth is, we can't We cannot use Vedanta to escape life. We have to use it to understand life and ourselves more deeply. Vedanta is not a retreat from reality, but a means to understand it fully. We cannot call suppression surrender, repression surrender. We cannot call avoidance non-attachment. We cannot call indifference oneness. Thomas Merton says, the truth is not found in escape, but in the courage to be present to yourself, to others, and to God. The spiritual life is not a theory. We need to live it fully, honestly, and courageously. Spirituality that bypasses real human experience is not life, it is a mask. So I wanted to share with you these thoughts, because what really triggered this topic to me was that the other day I was having a Q&A. We were just, talking, discussing a topic about the transformation of our personality, and one of our longtime devotees actually said, Swami, I've been waiting for samadhi my whole life. I now understand how much I hurt my family and myself because of waiting for the samadhi. So, is waiting for samadhi spiritual bypassing? Is waiting for samadhi's escape from our responsibilities and life in general? Would waiting for samadhi, your whole life, missing living your life in the present, be defined as a sort of escape? What do you think? What is samadhi? Perfect concentration. So perfect that you lose yourself in the object of your meditation, dhyanam. The yoga philosophy defines what we call moksha, self-realization, or, self-mastery. I like to use that. I used to watch Kung Fu when I was a kid, Self-mastery. Freedom from these so-called laws by understanding them. It's called samadhi. The Buddhists call it nirvana. Waiting for samadhi your whole life while neglecting the present moment and everyday responsibilities can indeed be considered a form of spiritual bypassing. Not because samadhi is invalid or unimportant, but because the attitude behind the waiting reveals an escape from life rather than an engagement with it. This is very important for us to understand. Whatever our responsibilities take place, that's our field to practice this yoga. And yoga is nothing but a means to achieve clarity, chitta shuddhi, mental clarity. If we don't practice, there will be no tranquility in our minds, and as a result, not understanding. All we need is tranquility. calmness. That's why we meditate, that's why we pray. We give our minds a place to rest. Otherwise, the mind is doing what? Thought after thought after thought. And what do? We jump on them. And we become our thoughts. And you go like, I'm going crazy. Of course you are. We have to understand the workings of our minds. That's essential for us. The concept of service to all, recognizing them as God's manifestation, Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva, came from Sri Ramakrishna. And it was Swami Vivekananda later who forged this into the guiding principle of what is now called, the Ramakrishna Maran Mission. We monks belong to this organization. God is not only in samadhi, He is also in what we call compassion. But not that kind of compassion that you know. The one you want to customize for your own benefit. True compassion means seeing the living God in all living beings. The idea is not to dismiss deep spiritual states, meditation, but in Vedanta we must emphasize clarity over experience. Sometimes people think that spirituality is all about experiences, like, fantastic experiences, having a vision or something. Clarity is important. To understand is important. Knowledge is more important over the so-called trance. Living wisely in the world as a true expression of that understanding. Living wisely in this world. You simply can't wait for a future state of mind. Oh, the day when I get samadhi. It's here and now. And we have to work for it. When I attain samadhi, then I will be free. It's here. It's now. We're already free. We are divine beings. Nobody can take that away from us. We just need to act accordingly. We just need to accept it. I know it's a little heavy what I just said, but it's true. Vedanta says that. We can't deny it. We have to let it show. We have to manifest this divinity. Of course, that's the duty, the dharma of every human being. Manava dharma is called. Freedom, or what we call moksha, is recognition, not attainment. The self is already a whole, ever free, ever present. Why do you want to put just like, I don't want to see, I don't want to, like the monkey, It's here. It does not arise in samadhi. It is what makes samadhi possible. You don't become free in samadhi, you are free now. Samadhi may reveal it, but so can clear thinking. Are you comfortable with this? Yes, we have to use our intellectual capacity. It's a must. If one withdraws from relationships, from duties or emotional growth, thinking, I will deal with all that after enlightenment, this is clearly avoidance, a sort of escapism. True jnana means self-knowledge, according to Vedanta, is not a high state experience, but a clear, steady understanding. It's all about understanding. Coming face to face with the reality, and don't run away. Take it, accept it, own it, embrace it, and act accordingly. So what do we do? Oh, we are divine. Oh, yes, sure, but, of course we have issues. The divine manifests through us as us, limited by all our ideas about ourselves. Our goal is to let that divine manifest fully. No ideas, no limitations. Be natural. Be your real self. To say I'm waiting for samadhi to begin living implies you are not living now, which is false. You are always living, always existing. The question is, with what awareness? Samadhi may give glimpses of peace, but Vedanta is all about understanding. And that understanding comes from listening. You've listened enough, I hope. Reflecting and contemplating. When? All the time. Even when you sleep. Don't think like Vedanta is just, it's 24/7, you guys. 24/7. For the rest of your life, we have to remember, reflect, and contemplate. Meaning, a contemplation is a way or a means to express this in our lives. The present is the only time for living and for inquiry. Don't wait for a special state. Where am I? Is the question. Ask yourselves all the time, where am I? Our Swami Cheska, I don't think it's a good idea to share this, but he got his driver's license. So he said, okay, I'm gonna drive to San Diego. Okay, fine. And suddenly he was leaning towards the other lane. I was like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Stay focused. Come back to yourself. Don't entertain your mind with other thoughts. You are driving now. That's us constantly calling upon it. Where am I? What am I doing? Am I driving? I'm driving. I'm not just relaxing. You can't relax too much, when you drive. My dad told me that many years ago. Always you have to be a little alert and a little tense. Well, you have to understand what tension means. Not I mean you have to be like that. But always stay alert. Same way with our lives. Where am I? Your eye is where your attention is. Are you listening? Then you may say, okay, I'm here, Swami. I'm here. I'm listening. Why? Why are you here? Because I can acknowledge. I'm aware. Aware of what? Of my existence. I exist. I have awareness of my existence that I'm here. Then who is that I? That's the third question. Where, why, who? Who am I? We cannot neglect our roles in life and our reality, because as long as we experience duality, it is our reality. Is it true? It feels so real, right? Fulfilling your roles with clarity, honesty, and compassion prepares the mind for knowledge. Prepares the mind for the right state of mind, to have that aha moment. Oh, I see it now. This is far more better than waiting for mystical experiences. Now, I have 20 minutes. In Vedanta, we talk about two levels of truth. One that is called Vyavaharika Satya, our empirical, transactional reality, the world with names and forms, with duties, actions, and consequences. It's called Vyavaharika Satya. And then there is another level of truth we cannot deny, which is Paramarthika Satya, the absolute reality, the non-dual, unchanging, limitless self, which is you, the real you. The one who is aware of your existence as a witness. The one who is aware of your experience. One must function responsibly in this Vyavaharika Satya, or transactional reality, while knowing, remembering, accepting the Paramarthika Satya, because you cannot deny it. You can't deny that you are a conscious being. Can you deny that? You are a conscious being, blissful in its nature. Your existence, awareness of your existence, and you are blissful. And that's all what you are looking for in the external world. With all your sensual experiences, what do you get? Bits of it. Experiences that have a beginning and have an end. But even that joy that you experience is not the object. It's not the situation. It's coming from within you. The object, the situation triggers that. By nature, we are blissful beings. And we have to discover that, own that, by going within, by having an inner life. The whole Vedantic teaching can be summarized in Ayamatma Brahma. This self is Brahman. Ayamatma Brahma. That is, the whole thing, our whole reality is conveyed by words alone. This Brahmana, these words, is called Shabda Brahmana. What is the Shabda Pramana? Well, the means of knowledge is our experience, our direct experience. The second is inference. And the third one is Shabda Pramana, the words coming from reliable sources that we have to trust. And we trust with our intuition. Intuitively, we understand that will lead me to freedom. Now, traditionally, we talk about two types of sadhanas. Sometimes we bypass this, but not fully understand this in our lives. How do we know that this self is Brahman? If that's the ultimate teaching coming from the sages, did you know that? As a Mahavakya, the final statement, thou art that, Tattvamasi. How do we know that? Why do we have to postpone this for some kind of experience, or waiting for some kind of experience? There is clearly responsibility on us. Clearly, we are deluded. There is something that prevents us from experiencing this. We get lost in the senses, in the world, in this Vyavaharika reality. There is something called Bahiranga Sadhana, which is nothing but external practices. Bahiranga Sadhana gives us what is called Chitta Shuddhi, the purification of the mind. Now, traditionally, these Bahiranga Sadhanas are just the right means to live in our lives. So we all carry on our lives with values that define who we are. Values and what? What else? Practices, disciplines, habits. Bahiranga Sadhana is basically what in yoga we know as yama niyama. Universal ethical values that we have to embrace. We have to be coherent with what we preach and what we practice. So non-violence, truthfulness, non-stealing, leading a life of moderation, non-possessiveness, inner disciplines like calmness, contentment, to practice some self-restraint, the study to stay inspired. This is necessary, don't you think it's necessary? To hang out with the right people. What do you think? You have to lead a life according to your goal in life. If your goal is to manifest your divinity, you have to lead a good life. Do you agree? Now that's essential. What we say as monks, we encourage you to have a God-centered life. Ishvara Pranidhana. That means devotion to a God, the ultimate reality. Now, there is another internal practice that has to go hand by hand in order for us to accept, understand fully the message of Vedanta. That is called Antaranga Sadhana. Antaranga Sadhana is mental work. We use the word upasana, absorption of the mind. We have to get hold of our mind and give our mind direction, a proper direction. We have to keep our minds entertained. We have to keep our minds busy, because we become what we meditate upon. So it's not enough to deal a good life, with values, if we don't get hold of our minds. We'll keep jumping from thought to thought. This absorption of the mind, it's necessary to deal with our mental obstacles. Obstacles that prevent one from owing up our knowledge. Dhyana, meditation, prepares the person for that knowledge. Real dhyana, the real meditation, is to be who we are, by definition. This internal practice, called upasana, is called also manasa karma, in the form of intentions, meditation, dhyana, mental worship, japa, visualization, and so on. Now, this manasa karma will give us something that is called chitta nischalya. Chitta nischalya. Bahiranga sadhana gives you chitta shuddhi, purification of the mind. This antaranga sadhana gives you chitta nischalya, which is the calmness of your mind, which is absolutely necessary. Knowledge can take place only in the mind. Therefore, to give this mind rest to this mind, is absolutely required and necessary. Atma, the self, is Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa. We don't know that. We are lost in the senses. There is ignorance. And that is the first obstacle. These obstacles are traditionally called Avarana Shakti and Vikshepa Shakti. You've heard about them, you might have read about them. My intention is not to go deep into this. I have to mention them. Avarana Shakti is the power that conceals. Vikshepa Shakti is the projecting powers that create mental distractions and perception of multiplicity. Now, we need to understand this. Our ignorance of our own selves is due to these powers. Avarana, the concealing, which is ignorance itself, and the projecting powers that creates mental distractions and the perception of multiplicity. To eliminate, to eradicate these obstacles, one's required these two types of sadhanas, these two types of spiritual practices, going hand by hand. To understand this fact about oneself, the mind has to be ready. If the mind is not ready, this ignorance does not go away, even after exposure to Vedanta Pramana. Vedanta Pramana means even after reading the scriptures, even after hearing about it. What happens to us? Oh yes, I am Brahman. And then, so what do I do now? If the mind is not ready, this avarana does not go away, even after exposure to Vedanta Pramana, to the truth. about oneself. Then one has to conclude that there are these obstacles, this preparedness, the preparation of the mind is required. For the sake of removing these impurities, one has to do karma. One has to live. One has to accept our responsibilities in life. We cannot run away. To stay active with responsibility is a means to practice this yoga of perfect balance. The right action with the right attitude. And we require absorption of the mind, mental karma. There are many kinds of this mental activity as a means to remove this ignorance. With different ideas about what we call God, different names and different forms. We all approach to the ultimate reality through different symbols. That's why we are invited to meditate on our Ishtadevata, for example, as a means to calm down the mind, to stay connected to the truth and our inner self. Now, what would be the main escape in our spiritual life? Now that we know that we have these powers or these obstacles that we have to deal with, that we have to remove. What is the escape, the main escape, or the main spiritual bypassing? It's not to do what we have to do. It's to avoid the work. Both the external practices and the internal practices. Otherwise, that aha moment won't take place in our minds. The main escape that we entertain in our life is not to do what we have to do. The greatest obstacles is that not to do the work, not to do what is needed, not to take responsibility. We have to use Vedanta to understand life, not to escape life. Spiritual guidance is required. Don't simply grab a few books and become a teacher. The other day somebody was telling me, I just come here to the bookstore, buy a bunch of books. I go online on Instagram, I start preaching this, whatever I read, and I have a lot of followers. I was like, wow. We need proper guidance. We have to use Vedanta to understand life, not to escape life. Faith, not blind faith, but working trust. Faith is not a belief. It is the willingness to suspend judgment until you have fully understood. Vedanta is not information, it's transformation through understanding. And for that, we need preparation. You don't remove darkness by fighting it. You remove darkness by brightening it in light. The self is always free. The only obstacle is the belief that we are bound. Therefore, spirituality cannot afford hypocrisy and self-deceit. Spirituality is not a refuge from life, but a means to live it fully and freely. When spirituality becomes an escape, whether from pain, duty, or growth, it ceases to be a spirituality and becomes a subtle form of bondage. Authentic Vedanta demands courage, clarity, and commitment to truth at every level of existence. It invites us not to abandon the world, but to understand it, and ourselves as well, so deeply that we are no longer at its mercy. The truth is not found in escape, but in the courage to be present to yourself, to others, and to God. To lead a God-centered life is a must. To do the external and the internal work is a must. The spiritual journey is not about rising above our humanity by diving deeply into it so that we may discover the divine within the human. Thank you.
We have time for a question.
Oh, yes.
Anybody have any questions?
I had to wrap it up, you guys. I was like, oh, I'm not going to make it.
I think we're all sated.
Hmm?
Carol?
Oh, sorry.
When Sri Ramakrishna went to Mother and said he couldn't give up truth, that was the only thing that he couldn't give up to her. Is that what you mean by living in the truth? Is that what he meant by that? I always wonder, what did he mean by, okay, truth, we can think of truth, but what you're saying is like really a strong sadhana to take hold of that.
Well, there is no shortcut, you know. Sometimes I don't believe in shortcuts. I believe that you should understand what the standard is and keep that standard always there. Don't lower the standard. Sometimes we get too comfortable in our spiritual life and we don't get to see the fruits. To stay in the truth is not to compromise the truth, but to live in it. To see the divine in all beings is something that we must practice. Due to these obstacles, we see duality. We experience duality. But every time we look at each other, we should remember God is living in that temple. Therefore, you honor God. And you understand whatever you want for yourself, you have to give it to others. In order to practice this, yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, go ahead. So I'm just finish what you said.
Now, in order to know this, that knowledge happens in our minds. So I cannot stress enough, the problem, you guys, is in our minds. We are deluded. We are hypnotized. we need to understand the workings of our own minds by accepting that Shabda Brahmana. I am that reality, eternal reality, ever present, unchanging reality, constantly thinking about it. How does that happen? Confront yourself. Is it true? You can't deny your existence. It is true. Then why do I get in trouble? What's the problem? What am I looking for here? We are looking for contentment, the feeling of completeness, fulfillment. So we look for it in the outside world. Wrong search. It's not in the outside, it's within me. It's within ourselves. Is that clear? So you can compromise what needs to be done. You can't escape. See? There is a lot of stress on that. We got the police chasing you. You can't escape. We can't escape. We have to do what we have to do. Take responsibility. Yes, clearly we are all hypnotized by believing that this dream is real. The only way out is to do the work. By being coherent in our daily lives, practicing values and disciplines, this will lead you to have or allow your mind to stay in Sattva Guna. Sattva Guna is essential, you know. Otherwise, Tamas and Rajas will always take us to this pair of opposites. Raja Guna is stay calm. Only when we stay calm, we make the right decisions. Therefore, these values and these disciplines are essential. Plus, we need that inner space. We need to have that inner space. And unfortunately, we have to work for that. Dhyanam, meditation, these upasanas, it's called upasanas, no intention. When you go, you pray. We are supposed to practice that every day. Are you doing it? Nobody wants to say the truth, huh? It's a must. You cannot compromise this. You cannot start your day without giving your mind rest. By offering yourself to God, to the ultimate reality. By offering the best of you, your attention. At least for 15 minutes, until you get addicted to it. See? Once you like it, it's way better than anything else. Because you get to get the taste of your inner bliss. And then what do I do? Nothing, we are trapped here. We have to keep living, playing our roles in life. We can't escape them. You are a mother, you have to be a mother. You are a teacher, you have to be a teacher. You have to do groceries. Yes. Do all that in happiness. Always remembering the truth. The Shabda Brahmana. You cannot forget the truth. So it's a play. It becomes a play. You become actors. An actor knows his script. He plays the script, but he knows, I'm not this role I'm playing. I'm just an actor. That should be us. We want to bypass this or just, well, maybe one day, maybe next life. Why? You have to start doing this right now. Hmm? We are human beings. We have a huge responsibility. No other living being can do this. Did you know that? So we have to embrace this responsibility. It's called Manava Dharma. The Dharma of a human being is to manifest its own divinity. Don't think you are not ready. Everybody is ready. At different levels, with different struggles, challenges of life. But that inner work, manasa karma, prayer, intentions, meditation, trying to guide your mind. You know, meditation is not just trying to boil your mind. That's absolutely misunderstood and it's absolutely wrong. Meditation is work. Did you know that? You have to work. That's why it's said, in order to meditate, you have to be well rested. Otherwise, what happens? Fall asleep. Meditation is, you have to stay active and observe your mind. Hey, where are you going? Come back. Just like I was telling you with this one. Hey, where is your mind going? Be here. Alert to the traffic. Right. So dhyana, meditation, involves you to stay active, actively bringing your attention back to this object, to this object, to this object. Oh, you went somewhere, you bring it back. Until you fall, you literally merge in the meaning of your object, which is supposed to be the highest object possible that you can conceive with your human minds. What is the highest object that you can conceive with your human minds? The idea of God. How do you get there? How do you get hold of that idea? Through a symbol. We have so many. Pick one. When you meditate, you come back to the symbol. You repeat a mantra. Mantra and symbol carries meaning. This meaning is where you have to merge when the mind gives up. You know the story that the curly tail, I probably shared this with you before, or the curly tail of a dog. That disciple who was obsessed to have a genie who could fulfill all his desires. And he was pestering the guru, please give me a genie, provide me a genie with a genie, I need it. And the guru says, you know what, okay, you want this? Here. And suddenly, a being appeared before this disciple and said, you have to keep me busy. Oh, no problem. He said, I want this, I want that, I want the castle, I want all the richness in the world, you have to keep me busy, otherwise I'll eat you up. So what? Yes. Give me something to do right now, otherwise I'll eat you up. He started getting nervous. Okay, how about doing this, doing that? And then he was running out of ideas. So he started running towards his guru, saying, please, free me from this. He's crazy. He's gonna kill me. You see, I told you. So how do you keep your minds busy? The guru said, okay, it's fine. Please tell that genie to try to straighten the curly tail of a dog. So he tried to straighten up, and he immediately came back to its natural shape, curly. So again he tried, and then come back. And he tried to come back. Then the genie went crazy. He was like, please, free me from this. That's our mind. When the mind gives up, you have to keep your minds busy, but with something that will transform you. In this particular case, The mind is an interrupted flow of thoughts. Give it one thought. Keep it busy, and you will become that. That's what happens when you go deep into a meditation. Once your mind finds rest, it will be easier for you to remember all the time. Okay? You had a question?
No, yeah, one thing in reference to what Carol has referred that Sri Ramakrishna said, I offered everything to Divine Mother, here is ignorance, here is knowledge, but one thing I could not bring myself to offer is here is truth, and then he also interpreted the same thing in a different way. Once he asked, which Swami was, I don't know, I think Latu Maharaj, Swami Adbhutanandaji, to buy a copper plate, and he went to the shopkeeper, and the shopkeeper was a big devotee, and he started talking about God, and they were both emerged into talking about God, and then he came back, he said, oh, he's so spiritual, and then when he put water on that pot, it started to leak, and Sri Ramakrishna scolded, he said, yeah, I told you to buy a pot, go ahead, return it, and bring the money, get the refund. He was so hesitant, he said, oh, he's so nice, how can I do it? And he scolded again. He said, look, just because you are all devotee and blissful, doesn't mean that you lose sense of reality, And he kept on saying that, be a bhakta, be a devotee, but don't be foolish. And he emphasized that there is a difference between guilelessness, means being innocent, and being foolish. Well, you can be innocent, you can have a clear vision of things without any preconception, without any, our judgment is clouded. Our judgments are clouded sometimes. We can learn to see things clearly. However, it does not mean it is foolishness when our judgment is gone. However, we cannot.
So, what is the meaning of that? We just heard.
Clarity is innocence.
See, one of the things about, I gave a talk on this one day, the human aspect of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna, as you all know, he was like crazy, crazy for God, crazy about God. He couldn't help himself, anything, hearing everything that inspired him, he would just go into these natural, states of mind. We call them samadhi, right? So he was just merged in that state of bliss, inner bliss. This must be wonderful. At the same time, he had such a presence of mind. What you are saying. He was so alert in every detail, mundane, which we might think is mundane, detail. And he would teach different things to different people, according to their temperament and the need. So to act responsibly in the world is also a must, because the world carries its own laws, its own rules. And when I say we have to be coherent, we also have to be coherent with the world. I ask you for something, you brought something else. Take it back. No, but it's not going to be nice. Never mind. You just what you have to do. You made a mistake. So there is something about I give you knowledge, ignorance, take them both, and give me just. The thing is, we perceive everything through our minds. And our minds, as long as we live in these human bodies, we experience duality. Duality is where there is knowledge, there is ignorance. The only truth that exists is what I just told you. The right meditation is to stay where you are, in who you are. That's it. That's it. There is neither this nor that. It's here. So the fun is to live in the world knowing the truth It gives you a lot of, I don't know, peace, I'd say. Because you don't have to take it too seriously or so seriously. Because you know that everything will pass and nothing would last forever. And we're all going to die, whether we like it or not. I mean, the body. So to stay in a constant state of contentment is a must. We have to get there. Okay?